Hi, welcome to Hikate's Crossing as we continue with Journey of the Heart. Okay, we're up to chapter 2, of course, that we've been reading through, and we're using Vesta's Art Oracle. And the first card is Tell Me About Your Day. Then we're looking at sort of astrology, the signs, personality, and New Hope. So we're looking at sort of looking at listening to other people. We're asking them how their day is, and we're actually listening to what they're saying. It's how we choose to react in regards to our own personality will make a difference with what's going on, and it'll bring a sense of new hope. So let's have a look at the book. Okay, being a warrior in this sense does not mean acting aggressively or toughing it out. It means prevailing through inner strength rather than through domination, as exemplified in the ancient Eastern dictum. The greatest warrior is one who never has to use his sword. This approach is more like practicing Aikido, a non-aggressive martial art that involves moving, almost dancing with what comes to us rather than pitting ourselves against it. To be a warrior of the heart means welcoming whatever arises in relationships, no matter how difficult or challenging, as an opportunity to grow stronger, to call forth new inner resources. Approaching the difficulties of relationship in this warrior spirit as steps along a path, as movements in a dance rather than as a nuisance or a threat, cuts through our habitual tendency to contract into an oppositional stance when something threatens us. This can help us relate to ourselves and others in a fuller, more compassionate and wakeful way. What will allow us to stay present in the face of whatever is going on around us? To draw on our warrior spirit, we need to find a source of strength inside ourselves by developing a deeper relationship with our own being. In particular, we need to cultivate 3 essential capacities that enable us to be with what it is: awareness, courage, and gentleness. Awareness, clearly seeing what is. The most basic quality of a warrior is awareness. The more awareness we have, the more skillfully we can handle whatever arises. Awareness is by far the most essential, powerful resource we have for effecting change and working with life's challenges. That is why the samurai in ancient Egypt, in ancient Japan, often studied meditation, the practice of mindful awareness, seeing simply and directly what is happening from moment to moment. Usually when we say, I am aware that, we are stating what we know rather than practicing pure awareness. Awareness is much greater than knowledge or thought. It is the activity of our larger intelligence which responds immediately to what is before we draw on any concept to analyze or interpret it. Its basic nature is clarity. Certain meditative traditions liken awareness to a mirror, which reflects without bias. It also has been likened to the sun, which illumines whatever it shines upon. Awareness radiates a broad, diffused light that can reveal what is going on in any situation, beyond any idea we have about it. Another important feature of awareness is its fluidity. Like a zoom lens, it can move back from any state of mind or emotion that we're caught in, so that we can gain a larger perspective on what is happening. It can also penetrate situations, zeroing in on the subtlest details. A third characteristic of awareness is its stability and continuity. No matter how much our thoughts or emotions carry us away, at any moment we can always return to being present and simply noticing what is happening. No matter how difficult a situation may be, when we face it squarely, letting our awareness shine forth and clarify what is happening, we find our seat. That is, we regain balance and confidence. When thoughts take control, they cause us to lose our seat and feel disconnected. When we practice simple awareness, however, we can keep our seat and go forth to meet what is in front of us in a saner way. The classic meditation posture, sitting still with an upright posture, both expresses and supports the stability of awareness. Cultivating this clear, fluid, flexible awareness enables us to confront whatever arises. Such an awareness can be practiced right in the midst of our relationships. Let us take a simple example, one that everyone has experienced. Partner has said something that is hurtful and touched of a fight. At first, I'm caught up in feeling hurt. My body aches and my mind is swarming with painful thoughts and associations. I don't like to feel this way, so I start to react against it. Yet my pain is like the famous tar baby in the Uncle Remus tale. The more I struggle with it, the more I become entangled and stuck in it. I start to tell myself stories that only intensify my pain. She'll never understand me. She likes to attack me. She's too aggressive. Maybe this relationship is finished. I don't know how to make her happy. Each of these stories touches off further reactions in me. And the more I get caught up in my reactions, the more I lose touch with what is really happening. If I plug into the story, she likes to attack me, that's just the way she is. I may then do something to get back at her, or I may decide to close myself off to her. Yet both these defensive reactions often only complicate the situation further, because they are not accurate responses to what is really going on. To find out what is going on, I must put aside my stories and bring some fresh awareness to the situation. To regain awareness, I need to take a step back from the whirlwind of my reactions. Although this may take some practice at first, it is always possible because the nature of awareness is mobile and fluid. Instead of continuing to be tossed around in turbulent thoughts and emotions, I can let my awareness move back from them, like a zoom lens in reverse, and simply acknowledge the whole pain I'm feeling. When I can do this, it is as though I step out of a blazing fire that is consuming me and sit down next to it instead. Once I create some space for myself, I am no longer trapped in the fire's flames. I can then allow the fire to be there, as it is, without having to resist it. I can still feel its heat, but it no longer burns me alive. In other words, when I make space for my hurt to be there, and when I can be present with my awareness next to it and on the edge of it, I find my seat. This brings relief. I am no longer stuck in my oppositional struggle. Instead, I have more clarity. I can simply recognize that I am hurting without becoming so embroiled in a drama around it. I have more freedom of movement because I am not caught in reacting against the pain, and in taking my seat, I feel more stability and strength. Having made space for my pain and regained my awareness in this way, I can then face the pain more directly without trying to make something out of it. I can sit with it in a spirit of inquiry. Although my mind may provide plenty of stories about why I feel so bad, in truth, I don't really know why I'm hurting so much right now, or what I need to do next. Instead of trying to figure things out with my mind, I can look into the pain for clues. Letting my awareness penetrate the pain in a gentle, questioning way, I inquire into it. What's really hurting so much right now? And listen to what the feeling might have to tell me. As I do this, I begin to see that my partner's words touched a part of me that I've had a hard time dealing with, one that I would rather not have to acknowledge at all. So it turns out the real issue isn't that my partner is too aggressive, it's that I feel so vulnerable when anyone sees this part of me. Now that I've penetrated to the core of the matter through mobilizing my awareness, I am no longer in danger of reacting foolishly and making the situation worse. Things can begin to move forward because I'm in touch with what is true for me. This also allows me to communicate more effectively. Instead of being defensive and reactive, I can share with her how hard it is to let her see this part of me. When I do this, she softens and we are back in the flow of our connectedness again. In this way, we can always find a way forward when we regain our awareness and actively bring it on to bear on whatever situation we're in. While becoming aware of what is happening is simple enough, it is of course not always easy to do. This is because we have investment in maintaining and promoting an old familiar version of reality, and this prevents us from seeing what is actually going on, especially in the area of love. We are blinded by conditioned hopes and fears, by cherished preconceptions, beliefs and opinions of all kinds, both personal and collective. We perpetuate these conditioned ways of perceiving the world through repetitive stories we tell ourselves about the way things are. These kind of stories are mental fabrications, judgments or interpretations that put what is happening into a familiar framework. Usually we do not recognize these stories as our own invention. Instead, we believe they represent reality. Stories often operate in the background of the mind as part of an ongoing stream of subconscious gossip that we keep up with ourselves. The less conscious we are of how they control us, the more they keep us locked into old patterns of behavior. The greatest obstacles in relationships are often our stories about how we think relationships should be. If you love someone, you should always keep them happy. You should always want to be there. You should set aside your anger. They narrow our options and keep us stuck in very tight boxes. This dense fabric of entrenched beliefs, stories, and reactions reaction patterns acts as a filter that clouds and obscures the natural clarity and fluidity of awareness. Because this web is so thick and entangling, we need to find ways to catch ourselves in the act of constructing these stories, see through them, and return to a basic, simple awareness of what is immediately happening. We need to discover that we can at any moment make a shift from thought to awareness, which is the largest space in which thoughts and stories arrive. So, just as practicing a musical instrument allows us to play more fluidly, we must at first intentionally practice awareness before it can flow more fluidly and reflect more accurately on its own. In the Zen tradition, this is called polishing the mirror. With greater consciousness, we can begin to dislodge the stories, controlling our behavior, thus developing greater clarity and freedom in our life. The example that had been given on dealing with pain illustrates how we can begin to practice awareness in the midst of everyday life situation. This is the approach generally taken in some psychotherapy practices. It's related to the focusing method developed by Eugene Gendlin. An even more thorough, far-reaching method of cultivating awareness and seeing through the whole storytelling function of the mind is the practice of mindfulness meditation. Since it is difficult to practice awareness when we are suddenly beset by the emotional cross-currents of relationship conflicts, a regular meditation practice can be especially helpful, can teach us how to step out of the tangle of our emotions and stories, and relate more directly to what is actually happening. Mindfulness practice involves sitting up straight, following the breath and noticing our thoughts and perceptions, then letting them go and returning to a state of simple presence. Instead of trying to restrain the conditioned mind or force it to be a certain way, this practice provides plenty of space in which the mind can play out its dramas. We begin to witness how we are continually making up stories about who we are, what we are doing, and what will happen next. At other times, we discover a wider, deeper quality of ongoing awareness, which is clear, fluid, and continuous, like a steady stream flowing underneath all our various states of mind. This contrast helps us make an important distinction between our immediate experience and our interpretations of that experience. We start to cultivate a healthy skepticism toward the storytelling aspect of mind and develop a more discriminating awareness. Through this kind of practice, we can learn to be more present with whatever is happening in our experience, just as it is from moment to moment, apart from our beliefs, judgments, and fantasies about it. This helps us connect with our own living wisdom and keep our seat, so that we do not always get thrown or carried away by the mind's inventions. Drawing on this keener, more flexible kind of awareness can help us avoid becoming bogged down in the heavy emotional dramas that intimate relationships often set in motion. Courage connecting with what is. Once we start to develop greater awareness of what is happening in a relationship, however, we may not like what we see. As we see our flaws, our partner's shortcomings, or various imperfections in the relationship itself, difficult feelings arise. Having seen what is, we may doubt that we can handle it and become tempted to avert our gaze and fall back into unconsciousness. So it is not enough just to see what is happening. We must also be willing to extend ourselves to make a connection with it. This means opening ourselves to our experience and feeling it, facing it squarely and letting it affect us. Being courageous does not mean that we will not feel afraid. Rather, it is a willingness to stay open to our fears and rawness, without rigidifying or running away. In the meditation posture, an upright spine, head and shoulders express this quality of bravery. Look straight ahead without collapsing or curling in on ourselves. When we practice awareness, we actually contains courage in it. To wake up and confront what is actually happening, rather than just going along with old stories and reaction patterns, is an act of bravery. In our example, courage appears when I'm willing to sit on the edge of my pain and look at it face to face. We can learn to do the same with fear, anger, grief, or any other state of mind. We can move out to the edge of the fear, take our seat there, and inquire into it, instead of being controlled by our fear stories. If I tell the truth, she'll leave. If she leaves, I can't go on living, and the further panic they generate. When we connect with our experience, we also cultivate our being, our ability to be in the present moment. This allows us to feel our heart. The word courage derives from cœur, the French word for heart. Thus, the essence of courage is being willing to feel our heart, even in situations that are difficult or painful. Gentleness, making friends with what is, and courageously facing what is happening in our relationships. We inevitably come up against feelings we dislike or would rather not have, such as pain, disappointment, fear, insecurity, anger, or jealousy. So it's not enough just to practice courage. To stay connected with our being and to remain fluid and flexible when we come up against obstacles, we must also be gentle with ourselves. Some real intimacy also leads into unknown territory. We find our way only through trial and error, as we leave behind old familiar ways of being and to move towards new states of balance. Falling into one extreme or another is unavoidable along the way. This is how we grow. So we must give ourselves permission to go overboard sometimes. If we attack ourselves for going off course, we cannot learn from mistakes and use them as part of our path. Therefore, cultivating gentleness with ourselves is essential for fostering inner growth and development. Practicing gentleness does not always mean also always liking what we see or simply tolerating whatever goes on in a relationship. If we don't like our feelings, we can make room for our dislike as well. If we're angry about a situation, we can let our anger be there too. Whatever arises, we can learn to be with it or let it be as it is. When we open to our experience as it is without imposing any blame or manipulation on it, we start to make friends with ourselves. Only then can our defensive structures begin to relax, clearing the way for our larger wisdom to shine through and guide us. Like courage, gentleness is contained within awareness, for awareness holds no grudge or bias like the sun. It simply allows us to see what it is. If courage is the side of awareness that faces things directly, gentleness is the side that accommodates or makes space for what is there. The act of surrounding whatever we are feeling with awareness, no matter how terrible we think it is a very friendly thing to do. Taking steps forward, awareness, courage, and gentleness are the basic weapons of the warrior of the heart. They cut through our habitual tendencies to fight or flee. When we come up against painful or difficult situations in this way, they allow us to convert whatever challenges we are facing into stepping stones in our development. That's it for today. Take care and blessed be.